All right, guys. Thank you for joining me tonight. So my guest tonight, um, he's running late. Okay. Let me walk this whole thing back. We met at the rally today at City Hall. I got to talking with him, and I knew of the guy. I knew of the Bravest for Choice, but I never actually got to speak to him. So anyway, we got to talking, and he was at a rally, and then it turned into a hearing. So what people wanted to do today was, I guess, a lot of the politicians wanted to hear the cases for people who lost their job because of the shot. Thank you for the donation. So anyway, I'm not mistaken. I think he lives on the island, and he had to trek from here, the city, to the island, and that thing they had today ran late. So anyway, he'll be here in a little bit. So I would say probably about another 10, 15 minutes, he'll show up. Anyway, guys, with that, listening to his story, his name is Paul, I can't pronounce his last name, Schweitz. And the other lady's name is Sophie Medina. So these two pretty much started the Bravest for Choice, which was firefighters who were against the whole what was going on. And Bubba won. I heard about that, but I don't know how close we are to that. Anyway, guys, with that being said, talking to these guys, both of them, and a couple other people, everybody, I thought it was just me that took it the hardest, but everybody took it hard. These two are still on suspension, by the way. So they are 10 months on suspension. So what I want a lot of you guys to do is do me a favor and hold off on the donations. I would like every last donation, guys, to go to the Bravest for Choice. I'm going to put their link in here now. Guys, this is something that, how do I say this? They sat here, guys, and they've been sacrificing their shit the entire time. And this is their website. You can take a look at it. I would like for you guys to any bit of donation that you can afford to these people. So here's the backstory. He's going to explain it a little better than I am, but here's the backstory, guys. They've raised the money to get lawyers to fight for them to keep their jobs and to get them back on. And that's also including those of us who were forced retired. With that being said, for all the money they raised, they didn't touch a dime, and they got their asses handed to them because all of that money went to the lawyers. And they've been the whole time raising money to get lawyers. But meanwhile, they didn't take any money out, and these people have no fucking income coming in. Now, the guy that's going to talk tonight, his wife does work, so that's his saving grace. But Sophie Medina and her husband, who are both firefighters, they're both without pay. So they've been suspended for 10 months. And I thought everybody was out. I thought everybody was suspended already. He tells me, no, man, we're still on suspension. I'm like, what the fuck? Seriously? He goes, yeah. He goes, and everybody thinks that we will let go and all this other shit. And I'm like, what the fuck? So anyway, with that, guys, I got to talking to him. And these two, listen, I mean, firemen, it goes without saying, a lot of guys are selfless, and these two are. These two, they're just thinking about them. They're thinking about themselves, but they're thinking about other people. And again, you got to listen to him talk. So when he does come on, I would greatly appreciate it if you guys, again, listen to their story. And the only way, guys, their story is going to get out is if they, I guess, do things like this and other media agencies, because a lot of the media agencies out there don't want to listen to this. They don't want to hear these people talk. They don't want to hear any kind of woes coming from them. They rather focus on the pronoun people and fucking kids and drag queen parties, but not people who are actually struggling to make ends meet because they will let go, right? And to fight. Well, listen, high flyer. A lot of people love that job, and that's the bottom line. The job is awesome. All right, guys. So here is Paul. He's coming in now. What's going on, man?
What's going on, brother? How we doing?
Very good. Very good. Again, so I was sort of introducing you to everybody on here. Um, do me a favor, introduce yourself.
Absolutely. My name is Paul Schweit. I'm a firefighter with the FDNY. I've been on the fire department for 7 years. And back in last October, when the mandates came down on the fire department, I decided to start a conversation with a group of firefighters, and it turned into something bigger than I could imagine. And then we started this organization, Bravest For Choice, to basically push back on the matter at hand, on mandates, and to simply just to have choice in the matter. Um, I'm a father, a husband. I was a United States Marine before my profession as a firefighter. I rose to the ranks of sergeant in the Marines, and it was a true calling. And when I left there, the fire department really stood out to me because it was an easy transition to find that brotherhood, to that sense of calling, purpose bigger than yourself. Um, and now we kind of started that same sense of purpose, reuniting this fire in individuals who wanted to take a stand against the vaccine mandates. And as a result, I am now 10 months on leave without pay as a punitive action for refusing to take the vaccine.
So, all right, guys, you heard the story from for yourselves, and the leave without pay, it's a suspension, is what it is. You know, and it's insane that the administration, the city administration, if you will, Eric Adams and his crew, refuses to, like you guys were saying earlier today, follow the science. They
Mhm.
refuse to follow it, and especially now that it's not working in their favor, and a lot of the science is saying such. Um, how hard has this been for you over the past 10 months, or for the past 10 months?
It's if you would have asked me that question a year ago, 2 years ago, about anything in my life, I probably would have been reluctant to answer. But I think it's really important to try and let people understand just how big of a struggle this past year has been for not only myself. I'm talking about thousands of New York City employees that we have been together with to hear their stories, and it's heart wrenching. You have people that have lost their homes, you have people that have lost their careers, people that have had 20 years on a city workforce that is just gone. No way to provide for their family. So the financial burden is immense. I mean, I'm sure all your followers that have a job know the struggle of just paying a mortgage and supporting your family and paying for food for the kids, and the list goes on. To do that when your job is ripped away from you, and it's almost impossible to get work now. In my situation, it's incredibly hard, and the stressors that it brings onto my family is what really kills me the most. Is because I have a 1-year-old son. My wife is pregnant with our second child, due in October, and she's a rock. She's really pulling us through from this financial burden of being able to keep our home. But the other aspect of this is this mental component that I never thought I would be. I never thought I would succumb to. I told you today. I kind of pride myself on being this person that could hold themselves together, and I know this sounds a little childish, but growing up, I really looked up to Superman, right? As many kids do. But I thought realistically that I could hold the weight of as much as I could, whether it was family burdens or stuff that I had going on in the Marine Corps, um, and now stuff I have going on with the fire department. But it's a taxing thing to go through. People just throwing you to the side, and you feel like you're nothing sometimes, and it really brings you down to these low spots in life. that we all go through, right? We all have these highs and lows, but I'll tell you, this past, I would say 2 years has been extreme highs and extreme lows. You know, 2 years ago, I lost my father. He battled cancer for 10 years and unfortunately succumbed to his illness. And, you know, me and my family went through so many struggles with that, and that was incredibly hard. But still, I was able to compose myself in a manner where I could get through it, you know, and I saw the beauty of and joy of life every single day, marrying my wife and having my son. I mean, life is beautiful. But then when this happened, when COVID happened, and you know, these mandates came down on firefighters, just seeing the pain that was surrounding me in my community, you had people. I don't know if you could correct me on this. I believe it was like 40% of the fire department didn't want to take this shot.
Yeah.
And I mean, you were there, man, right? We marched across the Brooklyn Bridge, united as New York City workers. It wasn't about one entity or another. We had about 15,000 people march across the Brooklyn Bridge back in October, November. And I mean, it was just beautiful. But, you know, they played a really good hand. They picked us off one by one. They divided and conquered. And it's just really sad because you see people have lost relationships over this. You see people, you know, can't even have this conversation.
No.
And that's probably the thing that takes the most mental toll on most of the individuals that I speak with, is the fact that they feel alone, the feel that everybody has forgotten about them, that we went from being essential workers to, you know, heroes to zeros, as they say.
Right.
And I can't imagine people that, you know, have gone through this on larger scales. I mean, throughout history, people have fought for, you know, their right to freedom in every aspect of our society. You know, we had civil rights movements where people endured incredible hardships and pain. So I really try and turn back. I'm kind of rambling, but I turn back to those moments because what we're going through now is such a small piece of what people have endured in the past. And I try and remind myself that because, you know, it's humbling. And standing up for what you believe in and taking a risk, stepping out onto on the ledge, it's not easy, but somebody has to do it. Somebody has to take a stand, right? You had to take a stand yourself. You're a young guy. You could have had, you know, 15 more years if you wanted.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because, guys, so when the reason why I went to the rally today was because, and this sounds really corny, but and I really do hate saying this because I don't say it much, but I look on Instagram, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, and Bravest For Choice pops up on my Instagram that they went live. So I click in, I'm like, oh, what are these dudes doing? And I look and I'm like, holy shit, they're still at it, you know? So him and the other female Sophie, they're still at it, grinding this shit out. With that being said, I'm like, here I am fucking, you know, like feeling sorry for myself, fucking pissed off, angry, hating the world, and, you know, want to punch a couple people in the face. And these people are still grinding out to get their jobs back and other people's jobs. So with that, I started looking at the email, and I caught that email about everybody turning out for today. And I'm like, fucking, I'm going to go. I mean, like, what am I doing? I'm sitting here, you know, editing videos, and then that's it. When I could be, you know, at the very least, helping you guys get back on the job. Because, I mean, like we spoke before, I mean, my time has come and passed. And you guys still have an abundance amount of time ahead of you. And that's what matters. Getting at least you young guys back on to finish what you started. All because, you know, I think personally Eric Adams is doing this shit out of spite. I don't think he's doing it because he's following the science. I think he's doing it because he legitimately hates anybody who opposes him.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not well versed in the political sphere, but the interactions that I've had some interactions with the mayor. I've had some interactions with other council members, and it's so tough to come to the conclusion sometimes that unfortunately, ego kind of overtakes an individual, and they lose focus on what they set out to do in the first place. And I truly believe that people have the potential, or at least start out with the intentions to do good. And somewhere along the way, people get lost, and I can't blame people for it, because life is, I don't know if we're allowed to curse on here. It's messy. It's fucking messy, right?
Yeah.
Everybody goes through their individual shit. You got family problems, you got financial problems, you got problems at work, all these things that are burdens on the individual. But there comes a point where somebody, it doesn't have to be the most courageous person. It doesn't have to be the most well-educated or well-spoken person. It just takes one person to take a stand for something they believe is right and start the conversation. And, I go back and forth with my wife all the time, because I have conversations with people that are on the complete opposite side of me. I've been cursed at. I've been told that I'm killing grandma. I've been told that I'm the devil. You name it, I've been called it. And when you meet those people with love and you don't bring that hate back to them, they don't know what to do with it. And, so the point of the matter is, what we're trying to do as our organization from day one is just to bring unity back to the people. And, you saw it today. If anybody goes on and looks at the press conference that we had on City Hall steps, I don't think that you can pick a more diverse group of individuals standing behind one foundation truth that each person holds dear to them. And everybody went through different situations, and people are terminated, some people were coerced, some people are on leave without pay, all these different situations. But you're talking about every gender, creed, religious background standing behind something, and that's really powerful. And people have to understand that that's not the minority anymore. It might feel that way in New York because of our policies here in New York, but we have a real chance here to turn all of this pain, all this anger, frustration, sadness, all the struggles that we endured for a year into something beautiful. And it's listen, I know I'm optimistic, and I know, it's hard to envision, but it's going to take time, and it's going to take, connecting on a human level to get past all of this stuff, and just understand that I had to remind myself today that not everybody's going to agree with me, and I'm okay with that. You're entitled to your choice. But for standing up for something that you believe in and being, kicked to the curb like you're nothing, it's a tough pill to swallow. And it's tough to get up every morning and go to these rallies. And, we have another one tomorrow. We have the Labor Day parade that we're going to be going to. Right. And then on Sunday, I have to go back into the city because, and I say have to, because it's something that's ingrained in us, right? 9/11 was something that's I wasn't on the job for it. I only hear stories of guys that were there. But it still resonates with me of what took place on that day, right? You have people that literally knew the outcome of their actions going into those buildings and did it anyway. Right. I knew the outcome of my actions. I knew standing up for what I believe in will put me on leave without pay, and my bank accounts would be drained through this process, but it needs to happen. And for everybody watching, you're doing more than you could imagine just by having these conversations. And I think it's time that people are re-energized and are brought back into this fight, whether you agree or disagree. From the start of this pandemic, we were told to follow the science. A lot of us disagreed with it, but we kept on going to work. We kept on showing up. We kept on performing. And now we're asking you to follow your own advice. Follow the science. The CDC guidelines have changed. I was in City Hall for 5 hours today, not wearing a mask, interacting with the public, interacting with government officials and people that worked in city. And I was no threat there. But yet somehow I'm a threat in my own work environment. It's just it's chaos, man. Pure chaos.
That's the interesting thing, right? So yeah, you guys are allowed to go into City Hall, right? And there was no problems going in. And if I'm not mistaken, no one had a mask on, right?
There was a couple council members that had a mask on,
But it wasn't
and the court officers were required to wear a mask, which I thought was very interesting, right? Because you have these elected officials that are sitting up on these panels, and they're not wearing a mask. And yet the people that are working for them, right, that are directly helping them and supporting them in their efforts,
right,
are forced to wear a mask, whether they want to or not. So it's like I can't imagine sitting in this chair right now and having somebody work for me and them doing something and me not leading by example and doing the same thing. So it's and that was just dropped recently too. No more mass transit, that you have to wear a mask.
yeah.
On trains and buses and such. But yet, City Hall, if you're a security guard, if you're a police officer, they want you wearing a mask.
It's funny. I wasn't wearing a mask after probably the first week on the train. I was like, fuck this. Because you know what I felt like? I felt like a drone. And I felt like I was being played somehow. Like, this is before everything started coming out. And I'm sitting there going, I feel like I'm being played. So I took it off. And ever since, and then the other reason why I took it off was like, yo, people are jumping the turnstiles and pushing people in the train tracks. I doubt very much a cop's going to be like, you put a mask on, right. So, I just stopped.
And let me ask you, when that took place for you, I don't know if you could recall, but did you have any level of fear to step outside and to be different than everybody else around you? Did that enter you at all?
No, because I always had the attitude that I don't give a fuck, right? So the I don't give a fuck attitude, right? It's always been there. And then when I stopped, like when I started telling people I'm voting for Trump, I didn't give a fuck what they were going to say, and when people were like, well, why don't you wear a mask? Because I'm not a bitch, like, and then it was all these little different things that I just didn't, I felt like, I think like the rest of us, I felt like we were being played this whole thing. And it was just that, like, at first they got me, and I always admit to this. I'm like, yo, they got me because I'm like, I was cleaning the rig, I was using, bleach, I was wiping everything down. And then at some point I'm looking around and dudes are still getting sick. And I'm like, yo, and then guys who got sick, they were okay. And I'm like, all right. So, yeah. So anyway, I let it go.
Your common sense kicked in and you started making your own decisions.
Yeah. And then I was like, fuck this, but again, you watch people here in the city. I'm like, why the fuck are these? The other day, I didn't tell you this. I told everyone else this. We're driving down the highway, and I look, and it's a whole family wearing their mask inside the car. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I'm ready. I almost crashed it. I'm like, I couldn't believe this shit. I'm like, why the hell? And I kept looking back over my shoulder to make sure I was seeing what I was seeing, because it was like a Bigfoot moment, except for it was a bunch of idiots in the car. Yeah. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on? And it wasn't a cab. It was the guy and his family. His 2 kids and his wife and him had a mask on. And I could not fucking believe it. Anyway, with that.
But like on that note, though, it's hard to, somehow reason with the thought process that goes on, right? Obviously, they're a family. They go home together. They spend every day together. Why would you be protecting yourself against somebody that you're with anyway? But right. I think for me, I had to take a step back and say, the same thing I'm fighting for to get back to work and to have choice to not get the vaccine, I have to I have to empathize with those that maybe didn't wake up. And I don't know if you know this guy. He became a friend throughout this this fight. His name's Trammell Thompson. And he's an MTA train conductor and he's a huge labor advocate for the MTA. But anyway, he just kept on reminding me to. He's like, "You're awake, Paul. The alarm clock went off for you, and you're awake." And unfortunately, that happens for different people at different times. But what you need to do is keep on being the alarm for other people. Keep on having the conversation, no matter how tough, no matter how much pushback you get, because people need some like yourself. You just woke up one day and were like, "What the fuck am I doing? It's time for me to wake up." Other people, it takes a little bit more time to wake up, and unfortunately, as you see in society, like some people just never wake up. Some people will never contribute. Some people will always want to mooch off the system and never live a fulfilling, beautiful life. And that's their prerogative, because my joy and my happiness is not theirs. So I have to kind of let it go and keep on having the conversations, keep on, raising this concern that I have and taking a stand and hoping that a large portion of these individuals will wake up at some point. And that's what we did today. And I think it was successful. I think it was tough. It was tough to hear everybody talk about their stories and how this past year has impacted them and how these mandates have done more harm than good. But at the end of the whole thing, we just tried to, reason the fact that we got to move on. We got to get back to the way life is supposed to be. Get people back to work, and to give you insight, right before anybody spoke, civilians spoke, the committees, the council members, and special panel were basically trying to come up with a way to fill the void of city shortcomings. Right? I think there's 24,000 employment opportunities for different entities of the city, whether it be the fire department or a janitorial aspect. Every aspect of the city, there are shortcomings, and we're spending a ridiculous amount of money on these people that are making overtime. And we're sitting there and we're saying, we're the answer. We're right here.
Right.
If you bring us back, if you bring back everybody that was terminated, if you bring it back LWOP, people that vested early, people that retired early, give them the opportunity, invest in people. You don't have to cut corners. You don't have to think about how am I going to balance the budget. Invest in people, and the reward will be tenfold. We're the answer.
Right. But they don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
So Northern Girl Hobbies, someone just texted me, not texted me, but in the chat was asking about the donations to you. What are you using it for? Now, guys, before you answer, Paul, I said that this was for them, for him, Sophie, and a couple of other people who are struggling. That's what the donations are for. Initially, when they were taking donations, all of that donation money went to lawyers, lawyer fees rather, and a new company that you guys just acquired you. All of that money went to lawyers. Now, I thought to myself that, well, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, well, hopefully they took some money. And I asked him, did you guys take some money to make sure that you guys can pay your bills? He said no. Sophie said no, too. So now I'm like, holy shit. And again, 10 months, guys, no pay. And the other firefighter, her and her husband, who are both firefighters, they're both out. And they're doing like bullshit odd jobs here and there. And that's not making ends meet. So they're struggling. So the purpose of this is to, guys, donate directly to them. Not to me, not to my channel, not to my Cash App, directly to them, because they need some kind of assistance, guys, while this is going on. And this is the best I can do. Now, if you don't want to donate, guys, don't donate. I get it. But from an ex-firefighter, who's talking about another firefighter, and again, just talking to this kid for, the hour or two that we were standing outside of City Hall, they are about as honest as it comes, because they didn't want to take the money for themselves to make sure they can pay their bills. They wanted to pay the lawyers, which we all don't like lawyers. They wanted to pay the lawyers so that the lawyers can get them their job back. Well, guys, these people, Paul here, Sophie, the other I don't know, 40 or 50 of us that are out of work, right? And not including myself. I'm retired, but those who were forced to leave, who are going to get fired, and who are about to be fired in a couple of weeks, they need some kind of income, and this is a way to pay them back. Remember, these guys and girls put their shit on the line every time they go to the firehouse, every time they jump on a rig, every time they go to a fire. And this is the best way, in my opinion, to pay them back, is to show them the support from this channel financially. And again, if you guys don't have it, I get it. If you guys don't want to, I get that too. But if you can, all right.
I appreciate that. And, you know, there was a couple times that, so to let your viewers know, we started out with pretty much 3 lawsuits that we launched on our own accord, challenging different aspects of the mandates, the exemption process, and what have you. So we set up a donation through Give, Send, Go and PayPal that went directly to our organization, and we paid our lawyers directly from that. I think we're somewhere in the realm of $75,000 that we've paid lawyers throughout this process. And that all came from individual donations, anywhere from, $1 to, $1,000, whatever anybody was able to give. A lot of it came from a membership that we tried to set up within our organization. We said, hey, listen, just donate whatever you can. And from the start, the membership came out in droves and helped support us. But now we're at a point 10 months into this. And to be honest, a lot of people are disengaged. People don't want to hear it. People don't want to have the conversations.
Yep.
But the fact still remains that people are suffering. And I told you today, we actually set up a grant process through our organization. Anybody that was affected in the fire department that was struggling to make ends meet, we said, hey, listen, fill out this grant form, send it to us, and we'll give you as much relief as we can. So we haven't taken a dime for ourselves. And quite frankly, I really appreciate this platform, but I'm not going to take anything either. I know that there are people suffering way worse than I am. You just mentioned Sophie. Sophie Medina is a firefighter, a veteran for 14 years. Her husband is a firefighter of 17 years. I mean, and they have 2 young children. I can't imagine 2 individuals deciding to take a stand together and risking literally everything. They have exhausted all their resources. They've contemplated moving many times, but this fight is really grounding them to New York because they're born and bred, and they believe in what we're fighting for. So just imagine you're sitting home right now. If you have a family, just think about that. If you and your husband or you and your wife both on the same day just lose your job and have no way to get income, what that does on the family dynamic. Myself, I'm very fortunate where we're able to pay our mortgage because my wife is still working. But a lot of people don't have that. And that actually destroyed a lot of relationships. We know guys that got divorced through this process. We know people that have lost their homes, have claimed bankruptcy. I mean, the list just goes on and about the struggle financially, what people are enduring. So if you're out there and you're thinking, I have a couple bucks to spare, people could donate either through our website. It's bravestforchoice.org. It's right here, bravestforchoice.org. And we have a Give, Send, Go on there or a PayPal account, and people could donate directly to that. I'm sure that you could write a note. And you know what? Why don't you put on there the Angry Prepper as a note, just so we know where this money is coming from and that we can allocate it specifically for the individuals now. We're pretty good set up with the lawyers at this point. We plan to take this as far as to the Supreme Court, which is going to take a lot of money and resources. But these people that are suffering right now, they need they need the help of, their fellow man and woman to step up and say, hey, listen, you're going through hard times. We've all been there. Here's what I can do for you. So your generosity, I mean, I wish I could show you the faces of individuals that we've helped out along the way, or have been able to support. I don't want to get emotional. I'm trying, somewhere along this realm, I've become an emotional person, but it's heartbreaking. You see these individuals that are at the end of their rope, and you're able to do just a little bit for them, and it brings them right back, and it goes farther than you could ever expect. So if you're out there, we appreciate it. If you can't, we understand. At the very least, we just want you to be part of the movement, to be part of the conversation, to have the courage to have the conversations in your communities, to look on our Instagram, Bravest For Choice, on Instagram, on Twitter, Facebook. We're all over the place. Just to be involved, just to shed light on what we're doing. We're fighting every single day. So that's my rant on donations. It just popped into my head, and I didn't tell you this, but we also have launched a national coalition as well. So in our travels, we were asked to speak in a couple different states. We went to Ohio, San Diego, LA, DC. We've been to a couple different places to speak, and we've made partners all around the country, specifically in the first responder community. And what we realize is we want people to have a voice. Not only that, we want transparency in political action that's taken that benefits the individual, especially first responders. So we have one of our administrators that dove into that and partnered with Florida and DC and LA and launched what's now called the National Coalition of Frontline Workers. Pretty much anybody could join to be a member. It gives you a voice in elections. It gives you a voice in funding, where funds could be allocated that will specifically help you and your family. So we're really trying to make this as big as possible and look out for the individual. There are people suffering far worse than I, and we need to help them. That's explaining simple. It's part of human nature when you see somebody struggling to reach out a hand and pick them up.
You know what's more interesting, right? Is that, and we spoke about this earlier, how in the beginning there were probably a few thousand of us, right? And then when everybody got theirs, right, their religious exemption, or they sold out and got the arm ticket, whatever it was, then they just stopped showing up and they stopped, attending your functions. Now, like I said before, I stopped attending the functions because I was like, fuck everyone. I was like, ready to see the world burn kind of shit, and then, I started calming down, and then I noticed that you guys are still kicking, and I'm like, yo, these fucking guys are still fighting. Why am I sitting here being a bitch? Then that was me talking to myself. But the worst part was when people got their religious exemption or they took the arm ticket. It was interesting how now all of a sudden they didn't need your organization anymore. And that's what fucking sucks. And it dawned on me when I walked up to the stairs and I saw you guys standing there, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? I thought there were going to be more people, and there wasn't. And I mean, listen, the same one for the teachers and the cops. As soon as everybody got theirs or whatever it was, they just stopped showing up. So it sucks. And this is another reason, guys, why we're having this conversation on here tonight as well, because it still needs to be reminded that, guess what? Shit is still going on. And just because, it looks good, and just because they dropped a few mandates and they dropped a few rules and restrictions, doesn't mean people are not struggling behind the scenes.
Many people don't even know that this is going on, right? So many people are like so disengaged that the mandates dropped for, going into restaurants and the masks are done and this and that. there's still people that are affected by mandates. Just because you're not one of them doesn't mean that that's with anything in life. And unfortunately, to your point on these individuals that, supported us in the beginning, and then, it sucks that this is now the mantra that has gone around the department that I've seen. Is you got to do what's best for you and your family. And I fully support that and agree with it. But there comes a point for the greater good that somebody needs to take a stand. And we saw for 2 years that complacency did more harm than good. People got complacent because life was good.
Right.
Then the pandemic hit. I was with you, right? I mean, I was stripping down naked before I came into my house, washing everything before I hugged my wife. I was just as nervous as anybody else, but I had a job to do. And just because fear entered my body didn't mean that I stopped doing my job.
Right.
So for those individuals that were complacent, for those individuals that, got even more complacent after they got back to work, I sympathize with you. There's nothing more than I would rather do than say, fuck everything. I'm going to go in the middle of nowhere, buy 50 acres, and just start building something new and surround myself with like-minded people.
Right.
And who knows, maybe we'll come to that. But the goal and the mission has been to remind people that you're still in the fight no matter how far removed you are. If you got vaccinated, we still need you. If you were fired, if you were forced to vest, if you were forced to retire, we still need everybody, right? Because the mission moving forward is not just to end all mandates and get back to work. The goal is to make sure that this never happens again, so that my son one day will never have to go through what I went through, right? And that's the same way it's been for every single generation that has fought some type of fight in this manner. And once again, I gotta humble myself, because I sit back and I think about, how years ago things must have been. And I'm talking about shit that's way worse than what I'm going through right now, right? And it was so blatantly obvious and disrespectful in the streets, whether you're talking about segregation, whether you're talking about the Holocaust. I know a lot of people don't like to draw those conclusions,
Right.
but they're linked. When something is wrong, somebody has to stand up and fight it.
Right.
And that's what history has shown us, that it's always the 1% that makes the change.
Right. And it's funny, speaking about fighting, this was also another catalyst for me to get back into it. Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival is another YouTube channel. He's doing something called Operation Pocketbook. And Operation Pocketbook is where we don't watch any social media on October 31st, Halloween, because social media right now, as you probably know yourself, it's strickening everybody's speech, right? So I'm going to go on a limb and say that this video might be taken down, or at the very least a strike. So as soon as we're done, I got to upload it before they do it. And YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, they're losing their fucking mind. So if we all stop for one day not watching any of their shit and doing whatever the hell we used to do before there was this stuff, if we can gain this momentum and it starts affecting them, and people stop watching YouTube for a day, YouTube would be like, what's wrong? And then they'll get their attention. Now, like I said before, it could backfire, but I think that this is going to work. I think that we definitely have a chance if we do this, every month. And for one day out of the month, we do Operation Pocketbook. I think it would work. I think it would catch on. I think other creators would be like, oh shit, that's a good idea. They stopped me from getting paid. They stopped me from voicing my opinion. That's a good idea.
I agree.
Right. And again, that goes along with what you're saying, is that, listen, man, I think from now until we die, there's going to be a ton of fights ahead of us. I don't think this is definitely not a one-off. Look what they did today with the whole polio. New York State is now in a state of emergency because of polio. One fucking case in its entire state, and all of a sudden they have a state of emergency. You know what that is, right? That's a power grab. You know, so again, where do we go from that? And where do we go? We keep fighting until we don't have any fight left in us, or until we're dead.
That's it. And for most of us that are in this right now, it's the latter of the two, right? Because people need to understand that when you vote and you elect an official to speak on your behalf, does not mean that you forfeit all of your own rights and privileges to voice your own opinion, right? That Operation Pocketbook, is that what it's called?
Yes.
That is the best thing that individuals can do to show how much power we have.
Right.
Right. If these huge, conglomerates and pharma and political powers, all these different entities, they don't know that they woke a sleeping giant. They actually are right on a cusp, I believe, of releasing all of this back to the people. And and I believe that if we stick to this, that if we unite enough people, that if we have enough organizations that step up and do something like Operation Pocketbook, that we will show. Think about it, right? You like you said, one day on YouTube, gone, they're gonna be like, "Holy shit, what the fuck just happened?"
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, you're not talking about a couple $100. You're not talking about a couple $1,000. You're talking about probably millions of dollars, millions of views, subscribers, all these different aspects. That if the people just say, this is one thing that I can do to show that my voice needs to be heard, that I am not asleep, that, I was complacent in the past, but now it's time to take a stand and show that the people have the power, that they've always had the power, that, we were living life really good, but now it's time to get back into the grind. Not everybody wants to live that lifestyle. Shit, you must be out of your mind if you want to live that lifestyle. And one of my idols is David Goggins. Right?
Yes.
But he consistently tries to put himself in a mental and physical uncomfortable state.
Yes.
But in those moments is when you grow, is when you start striving to do better. You climb a mountain, climb a bigger mountain. If you reach the top of the peak, find a different peak to go to. Your life, if you just stop, if you just become complacent, what's the point? The point is not to make money. The point is to be comfortable enough to live. But if you're not growing, you're dying. And on the back of our shirts, it says, stand for something or fall for anything.
Right.
And we believe that.
Well, I know a couple of people like, should I watch Rumble or Odyssey? I would say, yeah, because then YouTube would know. Well, why is everybody on Rumble and Odyssey? What are we doing wrong? And then they're going to ask around, and then they're going to know. And yes, Hope Flyers. Paul is married.
Sorry.
I was waiting for that question. It always pops up here and there. But yes. So, listen, man. You guys are doing an awesome job. It's funny. Like, talking to Sophie today, you would think that this shit wasn't happening to her. Like it was happening to somebody else. And that she was fighting for it, because when I was talking to her, man, she was just like, yeah, man, and then she was like, oh, I've been following you before, because we were talking about the channel. So I've been following you before I even knew you were a fireman, and this other shit. I said, oh, all right, very good, and then, but she didn't hint at the struggle at all, and then later on, when because I had to ask, I'm like, yo, what the fuck are you guys doing for money? She goes, odd jobs and bullshit here and there, but it's not working out. And then that's when it dawned on me. I'm like, well, maybe, hopefully people donate and it's a couple hundred. It'll do something. I don't know, but I definitely for at least the rest of this month, or at least for the rest of this year, I would like people, if you're going to donate to me, don't, and donate to Bravest For Choice.
Thank you, man.
I'm listen. I'm retired, so I got a retirement check. These people are not retired; they're suspended. They have no money. So if you're gonna donate $1, if you're gonna donate $5 to me, take that money and put it towards them.
We
Obviously,
really appreciate that.
not a problem. And I just it pissed me off that you guys are still suspended. And then they had that bullshit saying, "Oh well, you're suspended, but you can't get you can't get work or you can't do anything else." So guys, this is the catch to the whole thing. These guys are suspended, which it is. It's LWOP, leave without pay, and they turn around in the same breath and tell these people, "Well, you're on leave without pay, and you can't work. You can't find another means of employment." So they would have to do jobs like odd jobs and shit like that that pays like under the table. But again, imagine
They went even farther too, right? Because when somebody loses their job, the average individual is able. If you get laid off, you're able to go collect unemployment, right? But if you were laid off or suspended from your job or placed on leave without pay due to any COVID mandate,
right.
New York State doesn't want to pay you unemployment. So I can't even register for unemployment that I pay into.
All right.
And even if they did allow us to go find a job within the city, there's private mandates for private businesses as well. So it's no matter what you do, you're meeting friction at every corner. You can't collect unemployment. I can't find a job in the city because I'm not vaccinated, and the job doesn't want me to find a job anyway. And even if I do find something, I can't commit because I want to be a firefighter. My job is, I mean, you know this. It's if you're out there and your career is your passion, it's not something that you chose to do, right? That's the way I see it. I didn't choose to become a Marine. I didn't choose to become a firefighter. It's a calling that you have to answer, and if you don't, you're never going to be happy. I mirror you in a cubicle somewhere in some office building in Manhattan. We'd probably light the place on fire.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You know?
But real quick, I want to address something. Lucy Peters, I swear to God, you're retarded. That she's pissing me off. I've been trying to ignore her, but like she keeps asking. She says, "What do the lawyers want my money for?" It's not the lawyers. I just said that this donation is going to them so that they can make ends meet for those that are struggling. If I have to fucking say it another way, I'm gonna fucking break out my sign language and start fucking getting ugly. Either fucking donate or don't. You make up your fucking mind. Enough already with your fucking stupid questions. Sorry, man.
No, it's all good. Listen, it's tough, right? Because there's so many different things in this world right now where you see people getting money for nothing, right? I saw one time people had a give, send, go for my dog's operation. Why is that my fucking problem? It's your dog. It's your responsibility, right? This is something that, yes, this stand that I'm taking is a personal choice, right? But we believe that we're not fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every single individual to have the right to their own bodily autonomy, right? You want informed consent. No, that didn't happen during the vaccine mandates. Nobody had informed consent, right? They were forced and coerced to take a vaccine that they didn't want, that they didn't know what was in it, and now we're at a place where government or the powers that be have more control over you. So that's what we're pushing back at. The lawsuits. I know that you didn't want to answer this question, but those lawsuits are to fight for religious freedom, something that we hold very sacred in this country, but nobody wants to talk about it right now, right? I mean, that's the beauty of America, is that you come from every background, every corner of the earth to come to this country and be free and to practice your faith, to practice. You don't even need to believe in any type of God to have a sincerely held belief, right? People think my lifestyle is crazy because I don't take medicine. I really try and practice holistic medicine, and I do that with my kids as well. Um, and people think that's crazy, but it's still my choice, right, to live that type of lifestyle. And
Right.
that's what's beauty about it. If you believe in something different, go live your life, go do it. As long as you don't impose it on me, that's the beauty of America. We're falling apart from that. So what we're trying to do is bring back true American values, right? Things that the country was founded upon. And I know it seems cliche and I know it sounds corny, but that's what's at stake here. If we lose this fight, then there's nothing that will stop the next thing coming and putting us in a worse place than we are now.
Well, all right. So I'll counter that. You're right. If we lose this fight, there's nothing left. The next thing that comes up is violence.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Again,
it is.
and I don't want to dive too deep into that because that's like a whole nother discussion. But yeah, if you keep fucking with people and you keep telling them, no, fuck that, you're going to do what we say, after a while, people get pissed off. And then what happens? Shit gets ugly, right? Now, remember during the riots, it was for the voice of the unheard. That was okay that they were doing that. Which was really bullshit, which really pissed me off. It was the other day, the NYPD cop who was down at the DC when all that shit went down, he got some crazy amount of time. He got the most time out of everyone there.
Yeah, I think like 13 years, right?
All right, 10 to 13 years. Keep in mind, the two idiots that dropped the Molotov cocktail at the cop car, they got probation or house arrest or some shit like that. So
make it make sense, man.
Right. And so keep in mind, he didn't do anything violent. If I'm not mistaken, I think he broke a window or some shit. He got inside, and then that was it. These people lit a cop car on fire. And with that, they got a little bit of time, and he gets fucking 10 years. Now, I know the difference. One is city, and the other one's federal. The whole J6 bullshit's federal charges, but still, 10 to 13 years for breaking a fucking piece of glass, that they replaced, and yet the cop car that they also replaced, but nonetheless, they had to replace it with a brand new one. But if that Molotov cocktail, if there would have been a cop in that car, or if the splashback would have got onto somebody else who was standing too close, somebody would have gotten burned. But they don't look at it that way, right? They go, oh, well, no one was killed. Meanwhile, this poor cop is getting his fucking ass handed to him. And now he's done. Once you get that federal time, man, that's your life. Even when he comes out in 10 to 13 years, he's done. He's not going to get a fucking job, anywhere. So
it's the standard is, and I'll say this: the other thing that we're trying to do is hold people accountable, right?
Yes.
We first started with our union, right? Before the mandates came down, we went to our union and said, what are you going to do about this when it hits the fire department? Their response was, it's not here yet, so there's nothing to fight.
Right. Yes, I remember that.
And listen, I am a union supporter. Do I think that the unions failed us in some way? Yes, absolutely. But at the same time, our union, the UFA, was the only one to take a stance at all and back us in any capacity. Every other union threw their members under the bus.
Yeah.
Same thing with politicians. Same thing with people that made these mandates allowed these mandates to come down in the first place. We are holding people's feet to the fire and holding them accountable because justice needs to be served, right? And I'm not talking about I want to see people in jail, and I'm talking about just raising the concern and having people look themselves in the mirror and say, "Yeah, you're right. I was blinded in the beginning, and I didn't do my job. And how can we make this better so that it never happens again?" Right. And by doing that, you're setting a precedence, right? That the people won't stand for injustice ever again. And we go through this cycle where we fucking put our foot down for when we see injustice is done. and we raise hell, and sometimes, like you said, it becomes violent. And then we get complacent because we win,
Right.
and then we get complacent and we fall back into this, downward slope. And I always love the saying, strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. Hard times create strong men. Right. And it couldn't be more accurate.
Right.
And that's where we're at right now in this country. No matter what generation that you're part of, we're all going through the same shit, whether it's dividing on some type of racial platform, political platform. When have I've never in my adult life witnessed people arguing that I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, I'm a liberal, I'm a conservative. That shit never happened in my lifetime that I've been privy to.
Right.
But ever since, and we don't have to dive into this, but ever since the 2016 election, more people finally engaged in the conversation, which is great. But we went the wrong way with it. We decided it was a great way to divide the country and split it down the middle. And every single day, these politicians that are not for the people, they can talk all they want. I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat. They need to do better. And the only way to make sure they do better is to hold them accountable. And if they continue to do wrong by the people, then we elect new people. We become the people.
Right. Well, that's the thing. We have to get the power back. And unfortunately, there's only one way we're getting that power back. And nobody wants to admit to it. And it dawned on me probably a month ago, or maybe more. There's only one way to get this power back from the politicians and the president of the United States. And it has to come through force. It can't no longer be picket signs and protests and hugs and kisses. Unfortunately, we have to start somewhere with getting this power back. Because politicians, man, listen, like we were talking about Eric Adams a little earlier. Eric Adams has always been an asshole. Always. As a cop, he was a dick. I knew a couple of people who worked with him. He was an asshole. And he was an asshole.
Have you ever met anybody that like worked with him and heard good things about him?
No, never. Everybody who's worked, and one person in particular said that he was always looking for an issue. Like he goes, and the guy was a cop. He was a boss, a lieutenant. He was saying, he was like, listen, he goes, I saw some of the shit that they had to deal with on the job. He goes, he said, don't get me wrong. He says that was fucked up, and there was some bullshit that that even I had to get involved one time. He goes, but he actively went out and created shit where there was nothing, and if there was something, it was blown out of proportion. So like he said he was just always a dick, and he's condescending. And it's funny because when he said that, I'm like, he does work with him, because this motherfucker's condescending like a motherfucker. Like, I mean, I've been following Eric Adams since he was in when he started the 100 Black Men in Law Enforcement. That's when I first recognized him. So I've been following him for over 20-something years, and he's just an asshole. He is just an asshole. And this asshole is not going. I mean, like, hopefully the courts force him to move, because he's not going to move on his own. Unfortunately, he's not going to wake up in the morning and go, you know what? I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to hire these guys back. That is never going to come out of his fucking mouth. It's never going to be an action you're going to see of him. So it just sucks, man. It just sucks that you guys, and I will always say you guys, because I'm in a better position, and I'm not like bragging or anything like that. I am. I had my time. I got my fucking 20 years, or 21 years, sorry. And I would have liked to have left another 4 years later. I would have liked to have left 25 years or 30, but that didn't happen. But nonetheless, I still got something to leave. You guys are getting fucking screwed the entire time. And the fact that, listen, I don't know where your stance is, but if I was in your position, I'm like, yo, shit, get off the pot. Either fucking fire me or put me back on.
Yes, man. Absolutely.
Right, stop this limbo shit, and then like having me, walking on eggshells, thinking like today's the day. Either let me go or fucking put me back on the rig.
Absolutely. That's the hardest part about this whole thing is being in limbo, right? when you submit a medical or religious exemption, it shouldn't take 10 months to come to a decision. Like, have some intestinal fortitude, make a decision, and give it to me one way or another. Whether, even if you deny me, even if you say, all right, listen, you're denied both of these exemptions and your termination date is in 3 days. All right, that I would have rathered that 10 months ago than having to go through this process, because then I could have either moved on or, fought a different way, or went at it a different. They banked on draining us financially, draining us emotionally, and it worked, right? They picked us off little by little, and now we are here. But once again, they didn't understand that the people that are still in this fight, the people that were able to endure and go through these highs and lows, they became comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
I mean, from the start of this thing, I was sitting in this room when we planned that march over the Brooklyn Bridge 4 days before it happened. And I'll tell you, we were sitting here like yelling at each other, like, oh, we should be doing this, we should be doing that. And then other people were like, oh, well, listen, we're still representing the fire department. We don't want to, step on the social media policy and get terminated before we even win our fight, all these different things. We don't want to put ourselves out there in the wrong sphere. And it took me saying, hey, listen, we're operating out of fear right now. Right. That's the exact thing that we're trying to fight. So, like, stop living in fear. Stop thinking about the what ifs. People were. I had a 25 by 15 American flag that I took from my firehouse to lead the march over the Brooklyn Bridge. And it was a beautiful sight. I mean, if the American flag doesn't resonate with people, especially in those moments when you have thousands of people marching behind it, then I don't know, you need to reevaluate what type of American you are. But anyway, people were fearful that we would be met with anti-protesters, that we'd be met with people on the other side that wanted to rip it up and take it and burn it and all these things. I said, listen, we're coming out here with good intentions. We're coming out here to unite people, and we have to put our best foot forward. And from that point, that's what we've been doing. I can't tell you how to get through the forest. I can't tell you how to navigate through the dark. All I can do is take the next best step forward. That's it. That's all anybody can do, right? Nobody fucking has all the answers. Nobody knows the secret to life or how to overcome every single one of life's obstacles. Life is fucking dirty. It's messy. And people need to have that grit, that fortitude to keep on going and to find what's on the other side. And every day, that's what we do. And we have to keep on growing in that fashion,
Yeah, very, very true. Well, listen, we are at the 1 hour and 10-minute mark, or 8-minute mark, rather. Sorry. We're going to go off the air now. I'm going to slide over to my other channel. But guys, do me and by the way, don't click out of anything yet when I end this. And guys, so again, the donations is going for those that are struggling. I told you before that the donations that they gathered went all to the lawyers for all these court cases that are going on right now to get them back on to see what they can win. Unfortunately, a lot of those cases are going to take a couple of years. It's not going to be instantaneous. But there is promising things happening across the nation where other places are winning these lawsuits and people are getting their jobs back. So it'll take them a while, but nonetheless. But the donations that I'm asking for you guys to give to them is for them, for their personal expense, for the amount of money that they put into paying for lawyers that they never got back. Remember, guys, they're 10 months on suspension or leave without pay. This is me asking you guys to help them out. That's all it is.
And this is what we'll do on our end, right? Because we believe in the benefit of transparency, right? So whatever comes from this conversation, first off, I want to thank any single person that donates. I mean, what it does for these families is I can't even speak on it because it's something that words can't be attached to. It's an emotion.
Right.
You're supporting families you're supporting people that are struggling and hurting right now. So what, in full transparency, what we'll do is when you make this donation of any amount, if you put the Angry Prepper on there so we know where it came from and we could designate those funds for these individuals, I'll personally show you, I'll report back to you on how much we received and then how much we were able to give to everybody,
Okay.
and directly show the impact of those funds. I think that's so important to show transparency in this world, especially when you're donating your hard-earned money.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So yes, Northern Girl Hobbies, thank you for that. And guys, I don't ever say this, me, but this video specifically, if you can share it out to people or your community, whatever it is, please do so. Again, the rest of my videos, don't share it because it offends too many people. But this video, this live stream, yes, that would be great if you could share it out. Thank you, Northern Girls, for pointing that out. Listen, guys, again, we're going to head over to the Angry Truths channel in a little bit. I'm going to head over to the Angry Truths channel. But guys, again, for those that did donate, thank you. I appreciate it. Paul appreciates it. And everyone else who is going to benefit from this will appreciate it. All right, guys, other than that, thank you for watching us tonight. Paul, thank you for joining me tonight. I do appreciate it, as always. I appreciate the hustle anyway, from New York to here to get on live stream.
No, listen, man, I appreciate you and all your followers. Even just having that conversation, I know that was between me and you. We had an hour conversation at City Hall, and I want you to know that your support, or even just thinking to bring me on this show, thinking of how you can help, how your influence can help others, that's what makes all this worth it. I know it sounds fucking corny. I know it's fucking cheesy, but it's true. That's what keeps us going. That's what keeps us, when I don't want to go back into fucking Manhattan tomorrow, I got to, because this happens. You meet people that want to help. You meet people that want to be part of the conversation. Once again, it's bravestforchoice.org, or you could go on our Instagram. We have the link on there. So give us a shout out, give us a follow at the very least, and follow this journey, because I think it's important that people's stories be told. So I know you keep on thanking me, but it's truly you and your followers. Anybody that helps in this conversation is really what we thank.
Roger that, man. Thank you again. And guys, thank you, and good night.